If you're watching on YouTube, then hey, welcome. If this is your first time watching me or hearing from me, my name is Brittany Verlenich. I am a social media strategist. Honestly, what I call myself changes by the day, but that really doesn't matter. What it's really about is helping you use social media to grow your email list and therefore build a community around your brand, your message, and make more money passively, because that's ideally what we want to have. But we don't want to sacrifice making passive income with the impact that we have, which is why I'm especially excited for our guest today. Hi, Raquel. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi. Good morning, all, if you're on the East Coast. I am Raquel Corona, and I am currently in higher education faculty member who teaches wonderful English things, but I also have and work in my business where I support women coaches and healers to really enhance their courses and programs by clarifying their curriculum, building community. And what I always say is I'm here to witness your brilliance and your tremendous capability to change people's lives and call you into that in a way that feels easeful and not like you're just giving away everything and with nothing for yourself.
I love that. That comes up a lot, not just giving everything away, because I think when people hear that, they think, don't I have to have freebies and don't I have to have content? And I would say, yes, you do. You would. But I love what you said, not giving everything away, because some people will hear that content marketing wise and think, oh, so I have to save the good stuff for later. I don't have to deliver the good stuff now. I don't think that's what you mean, though. So can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by not giving everything away?
I don't know. I think sometimes as women, we give more away that comes at a detriment to our well-being. And there's this question of compromise in that. And when we get into the question of how much do we give away and we come to this place of what do we keep, it feels very masculine. What do I have to keep that asserts my power over you that you have to then pay? When in actuality, it's what information does someone actually need to know in order to make a really good decision to continue learning from you? Because in the online world, it's getting complicated. There's a lot more people out there. So you can't put the same basic stuff and be like, yeah, someone's going to want to pay me. It's got to give people something for them to understand who you are, what your approach is, how it might be different from others, may need to hear from you more than once, because all those things are what I always think about, like when we're in the classroom, like how do I empower a student to make the best decision possible for themselves on the first day of class? I'm not one of those professors who's, oh, you'll be here for 30 minutes and I'll let you go. I'm like, no, this is the ad drop period. I need to make sure you have all the information to swap me out with somebody else, because this is a required course. You can go find some other professor. And so what I do is I run the first day of class. They'll see it for the rest of the semester. You're going to do a little bit of everything we're going to do so that you can decide whether or not I meet your sort of capability for learning. Because if I don't, then you have other choices. And I think that's what I replicate and think of when I think about social media and content. Like, how much do I give you so you have a fuller understanding of who I am and how I approach my work? So you can make a really informed decision, not one based on like absolute scarcity and absolute, you need this, but like a place of empowerment of this would be good for you because.
I love that. What you're also talking about right there, at least what I hear, is copywriting as well. And not just copywriting, but consent-based copywriting, right? When I think about like the marketing bro world, I think it's very much like, you need this or you're going to die. And that messaging is just, oh my gosh, it's so extreme. And it immediately repels me from anyone who uses it. Because if I say this, I think we can all be honest here. We're not doing life or death stuff, right? We're not
right.
Like we're not like, it's one thing if you're a surgeon, you're like, this person's bleeding out, I need to give them this procedure. Okay, hard, fine. Yeah. But what we're doing, we're talking about, especially a lot of us who are teachers, talking about math and English. These things are important. Does it affect our lives? Absolutely. Can marketing and money affect our lives? Yes, absolutely. But there are a million different paths. And you know what? Maybe I would make more money if I just said, you absolutely 100% need to be on social media. Here's what I need you to do. And I probably would make more money like that, because I say this is the one vehicle to success. But I also know that's not true, right? That's why I'm not an Instagram strategist or a Facebook group strategist, right? It's no, you get to pick how you show up and use social media and your content and your marketing. There's all these different paths you get to choose. And my goal, my job is to inform you so that you know what the features and the platforms are and that you can have the right strategy for each platform depending on what you want to do. I do think we have to be strategic, but I love what you're saying about opting, allowing them to opt in, providing the information, and that they get to make the decision and action. So one thing we were talking about before this interview that was so good, and I think it leads into that. Where does our responsibility stop as educators, content creators, marketers? Where does our responsibility stop for helping them get results? Because I know you and I are both in a mastermind together, Face Mastermind, which I love. It's always telling everybody, go join her mastermind. So good. But one thing that she says that I love is get people results for free before working with you. And I really do believe that. Like you said, there are so many people, we need to see social proof and trust that we can pay for, not even just paying, like your freebie for me to go put my name and email in. That's my time clicking off of the Instagram app. You're interrupting my scroll fun time. Like, why should I go to you? And I'm not saying that won't happen. People do it all the time. I buy stuff randomly all the time on there. But my thing is that, are you doing that, or are you making it so good that they can't ignore you? They're like, I have to have this. And not because you persuaded them, but because you are showing something that they really need. So I love all you're saying. So with that though, where does our responsibility end? When we're creating content, when we're delivering courses, when we're creating products that get them results, where does our responsibility to deliver and their responsibility to take action? And I know that's a big question. That's something that you probably have to take someone on a journey with, but can you just give us a snapshot or some practical tips? Because I think that people listening to this, if they're still in the classroom, they need to hear this message so they can let go a little bit and relax into themselves. And also as business owners, we tend to carry all of that stuff into what we do as service providers, as creators. Go ahead and just tell us what your thoughts are on that.
I may have a very long answer, but my immediate response is to think about the avenue through which someone has signed up to get a result for you to decide, where it ends and where it begins. Because with the freebie, it's you did the work. Now the question is, are they going to open the email and are they going to do it? But also, even when I sit down to create content, like I think of it like a mindset and a heart thing. Am I like the intention of, am I doing this to get X, Y, and Z? The sense of something that has to do that will prove to me my own worth to myself. So if I create this piece of content in order to get people to follow me so I can then have this many followers, because then it will mean that I'm in business or that I am a good person in business. Like when we go down that whole track, it is just, and I say that with such clarity because I am the person who struggles with all of that, right? I think we all do, right? When we attach our sense of identity and worth to a tangible result, like that becomes, I feel like that's the core of the issue. Because even as a teacher who gives feedback on writing, I've had to really think about, okay, am I doing this because I feel like it's teaching them something, or because I want them to go to get it right, to get my feedback so that then they could get it perfect, so then they can get the A. Right? It's like when you go down that path of learning, it's like, it's not healthy, right? For you or for them, because then you're showing up almost in a like frenetic energy of like, this is what I must do to perform in order to get this result, right? And that's just like on the smaller side of content and freebie stuff. But when I think about like actual containers, like courses or programs or memberships, I consider two big things in order to separate yourself from the result of what your students or clients are getting. One, what are the expectations that you're setting up for the learning, even before they enter into the learning? So this happens in the marketing, right? To what extent are you saying, I will get you this? This is what I will do. Instead of saying, my program is a vehicle to. Like it's a totally different switch, right? Because when you talk in that language, then it isn't yours. It's the experience they sign up for, which is also not just you, because the experience exists with a bunch of other people who also help them learn. Because that's what I love about learning, is that real learning to me usually only happens when we've embodied the knowledge in front of other people. And so that's one of the big things is, what's the expectation that you set up for someone that puts them through the door to think, oh, I'm coming in to get this from you. You're going to get me this result. Like in your marketing, like very early on, you need to consider changing that language, because it isn't you. Even when I think about coaching or someone signing up to work with me in a container, one of the big things I learned early on was like, oh, their choice to work with me is the decision that then reverberates and allows them to show up in a different way. It's not about me. I get to be there to hold them accountable, to provide them resources, but the decision that they made, and if they make that from an empowered place, is actually the decision that then the universe opens and provides like everything that they need that I can't provide them. Like the client that comes into the DMs, that's not like you. Yes, maybe through some strategy, but that's them and their platform. Like you're part of it, but it's not all on you. And so one, I would say the expectations that are set up. And then two, the reflection that happens in the learning process. I think people can be real quick to be like, I didn't get something out of something that I thought I was going to get. And I'm like, I wonder if that teacher of yours, that course creator or the leader, slowed down to have you reflect on what transpired at each juncture in the learning. Whether or not someone takes you up on that reflection and actually does it in that context is up to them. But for me, reflection denotes back to them that they have to sit there and think about what it is they got. Even if I didn't get the 10K client. What the fuck did I get on the way? What did I actually gain? Because what I gained was like learning how to run a sales call, learning how to speak to people and get them on a call, how to actually market myself and speak to people. Like those are tangible skills that have to be built as a foundation before I just decide to hit a 10K month. And I wonder if people, when they set up their learning experiences, actually give people enough context to understand these are the skills you're learning, along the way. And I think that's why like Q&A calls and coaching calls and like live experiences really help people be able to support the student in anchoring in what have they gained. Because when the result is not as tangible as like a client, development of a product, like if it can't be felt, then it's your job to actually be able to mirror back to them what did they gain. And you may not even have to do it. They may sit in a group. You may assign them a pod. And maybe that's what they meet and talk about. And that they reflect back to each other, nah, though, but you did this thing and it didn't work out, but you tried it. Because we need to be able to facilitate that the learning is always happening. But until you stop people, get them to sit with it, because in our world, we move very fast, they won't feel it or sense it. And the last caveat to this that I've learned as a newer business owner in the last 2 years is that if you don't have enough people, you don't have enough data. And that's okay in the beginning. Right? Like I'm sure you'll say that in social media. If you don't post enough posts, you don't have enough data to actually determine what your people like, right? Similar to learning. If you only have 3 to 5 people in a container, that might be just enough to get a sense of the different learners. But if in that 3 to 5, you have 3 out of the 5 are the same type of learner, and you only have representation of 2 types of learners, then you have to be patient with yourself as you move through the journey to working with more people to be like, let me make more informed decisions based on my diverse set of learners. Because I think early on we could be like, oh my God, this didn't work for them. I'm like, okay, so what can I do? Like in the middle of my group program, I slowed down. I was like, what is contributing to each person's behavior right now and their response to what's happening? At what juncture in the business are they at? Where in their life are they at? What are the things that are contributing to them not seeing something as valuable or them seeing this is very valuable? Because then that gives me a little bit more space than to say, oh, they're not getting results and it's my fault. No, there's like a million factors. And I think early on when you're developing things, that's the researcher in me says, give me the data so I can make sense of it. Part of me, the data is just looking at people as humans and being like, okay, they came in with this and this skill, and they came in with this and this. What is making it difficult for them to meet the result? Because it may not be you, and it may be you. But I always say, assume it isn't you most of the time, because people are human. And you know that from if you're a teacher working in the classroom with a student, you know that. Like you see them for a fraction of the time in comparison to their lives. So there's a lot of determining factors there. And then being open to the conversation with the student about what they think they need. Because let's be for real, people think they know what they need, and then we may give them that, and that may still not get them the result. And so pay attention to that intuitive part of you that also has a sense of, I'm going to give you what you feel like you need, but I'm also going to pay attention to this other part. It's actually showing me that, oh, you don't actually have the skill to get that thing. That's what I need to develop a module on or spend time on. Okay, that was a really long answer.
That's totally okay. I have 5 sticky notes worth of notes for you. I'm like, oh, that's so good. I have to talk about this. So like, okay, let's go back to you talking about the container for a second. I just want to give people ways to take action on that. Like we're talking about taking action, right? So my goal, even with this podcast, is that if you never work with me, if you never buy my products, you can still get wins from listening, right? Like one, that's how you make good content. So that's like a meta tip in itself. Try to get results for your people in your content. And that even just means that could be a new thought. That could be a new tip, a new strategy, a new platform. Sometimes I'll just discover something cool, like a technique, and then, oh, you should try this. Like I'm actually making a reel today about using, this is just fun, on Instagram on your stories. You can now use the cutout feature to make your own stickers. So if you have a picture of yourself with your thumbs up, you can make a little sticker of yourself. Yeah. And it's free. It's just in the app. So like little fun stuff like that. So I like to give people practical things, and I want to talk about containers and setting people up for success, because I can tell someone will listen to this and think, what if I don't have a live course or a live course yet, or I don't have a membership or something? You can actually still do this with asynchronous products too, or completely passive with your email. So I just want to give some examples of that. So when we're talking about a freebie as a container, and she was saying like, you've done your part. Have you set up an automated email sequence? This is something I'm going through in mine now and going back and saying, did I give a reminder to open it? And I know it's easy for us to think, it's not my job to remind them. And maybe it isn't your responsibility for them. It's not your responsibility.
But I think hate when people say that because I'm like, well, fine, but I think that is your responsibility. You think it hurts me to announce at the end of class they have homework the next time? It doesn't hurt me. It takes me 5 minutes. Yes, do they know? Maybe, but maybe they just want to we need to settle our nervous system. Being like, oh, okay, you want me to do that? Oh, okay, this is not, yeah, that kind of phrasing has driven me crazy in education all the time. Of, oh, it shouldn't be my job to do that. I'm like, how long does it take you to do it? And like you said, it could be automated. And I would add to that too. One thing I did in my sequence, because I'm such a teacher, is have you taught them how to do the thing that you gave them? The freebie, I'm quick to be like, in my sequence in the beginning, I'm like, do you remember you did this? Can you put it on your calendar to tell yourself you're going to do it? And then the next email will be like, oh, did you know you could just listen to the private podcast before jumping into the freebie so that you could get a sense of like how you can move through it. So can you teach them how to do the thing that you gave them in a way that might be supportive to them to get them to actually do it? And then something you've taught me too with Facebook is I've connected the Facebook to the freebie of, oh, you want more help? Like I'm in the Facebook group, like come and get the support you need in there.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's even if it isn't, let's just say your thought is not my responsibility, not my problem if they actually do the freebie. I want a quick reframe for you. What benefits you more, right? What benefits you more if they open the freebie and use it, like whether or not it's your responsibility, even if you're like a diehard on that, I will just say, okay, what do I want? Selfishly, I want for someone to open and use the freebie, right? Because I know that I'm going to have my tripwire after that, which means that I might get a sale or they might opt in. So selfishly, as a business owner, I want for them to open the freebie and take action on it. And I love how you said equipping them with the skills they need to take action, because we do this all the time in teaching. We scaffold, we differentiate, we make modifications, we accommodate. Like, why would we not do that? Sometimes the things you think are super easy because it's your specialty are not easy, or sometimes it's completely something else tripping them up. Like one thing I did not realize that with the freebies, because I'm like, oh, all of my audience for this is they're business owners. So of course they know how freebie works. Of course, right? That's where you get in trouble. Of course, I'm assuming this, that they're going to put in their name and email. They know how it works. It's going to go to their inbox. I have had people email me before upset saying, I don't see it. And then I'm like thinking, okay, why don't they see it? Is it in your spam folder? And they're like, what's that? And so then I have to teach them, okay, in your Gmail, there's this thing called a spam folder. In my head, I'm like, thinking this is really basic, but for someone else, it's not, right? So it's what is that thing for you? There's something like that for you that you're like, this is really basic, or you're assuming it's like one of those micro steps in there that you're not even addressing. Can you put that on the thank you page? So don't even wait for them to email. Like after the freebie, this is something else we're working on. I'm going through all our freebies and saying like, how can I make this as easy as possible? Like sometimes some people will have different opinions on this. Some people will even put the actual whatever it is on the thank you page just to be like, you know what, even if you don't get to the email, this is the freebie. So you might do that. That's one option. You might have a little video that says, hey, it's on its way to your inbox. Here's how you download it. Or there's a workshop or something. Here's a link to add it to your Google Calendar, right? Someone needs reminders. So just like whatever you can do to help that person out. It's going to take you a few extra minutes, but it'll actually help them take action on the freebie. And then like how she said, a follow-up sequence, if you haven't done, that's something you can set up maybe this weekend or on your next day off if you're still working full time, or just set aside some time to do that this week. Have you set up an automated sequence? Because I'm going back and auditing my stuff because I've been in business for now, like doing stuff since 2018, right? So I'm going across all my different stuff and thinking like, oh my gosh, I definitely did not do that at the beginning. And that's okay. Don't judge yourself for anything you haven't done yet, but we need to be better. So can we go back and update it? Did you want to add anything about freebies before I move on to content? No. Okay. So for content, so I love it. You said in the messaging, I will do this for you versus the offer or the promise of the product. Oh my gosh, so good. This is something that I really just had a realization about this last year. And I'm still, again, I go back and audit myself from time to time. How can you make the promise something that something you actually can deliver? So let's be real about that. Like, I can't promise everybody's going to make so much money for anything I do. I just can't. Like how she said, there's too many factors, but I can teach you the skills and I can help you get through building the habits of social media and also setting up this, like the technical stuff. I feel very confident about that. And it's even those little quick wins, like we were talking before. And I was like, do you have any quick wins? Because she's in my Grow Your Group journey. By the way, even though I'm talking about a Facebook group with it, the real underlying promise is you're learning how to build your email list. But sometimes where people are at, and I even named it thinking that, some people are like, I'm not ready for an email list. That's too hard. And maybe that's true. I don't know where you're at. But Facebook groups are really easy. They're free. So you can start growing your email list, even if you're not ready to send them yet. That's the deal, is like learning a little something every single week, every single month to get you closer, because it is a journey. It's going to take a while to build your email list. I don't expect anyone to have 10,000 leads overnight. Anyway, but she was talking about, we're talking about quick wins. And she was saying, I don't know if it's a quick win. Like, what about membership questions? I changed one of my membership questions to, would you like to work with me, or would you like to learn more about working with me? And she said that she was hesitant to add that because she was like, oh, I don't know if it's that sales thing, I think. Is that true? That's a sales thing? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big sales thing. Like, I had asked you that question. I was trying to figure out, like, how do I get a sense of who I could work with who's in the Facebook group? And we went back and forth in this coaching session. And you were like, you can just add a question. And I was like, oh, yeah. I read this book by someone. Men, of course, were like, oh, this is what you do. And then you follow up with them and you do. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit much. But then when you suggested it, I was like, okay, I'm being a little difficult here, because I think I'm assuming, which I think we often do in business, is I'm assuming, what's the point of that question? I never say yes to anyone when they ask me that question. So I'm like, why would anyone say yes to me? So that was part of my rationale. I was like, if they want to work with me, they'll get my emails, they'll get the Facebook group. But when you said to add it there, I was like, oh, because then I could just follow up. They didn't agree to work with me. They just agreed to learn more. There's a difference. I think we conflate them. And so it felt like a big win to be like, no, I can tell people. I think I told you before we started, I was like, there's this one coach I work with. And she's, have you told people you're in business today? That like you're open for business today? And every time I wonder if I should send the email and sell something yet again 2 days in a row, or say something again on Instagram. How do they know I'm open for business? I'm not a pizzeria with a 9 to 8 p.m. time slot that people can drive by and they know that I'm open. I'm an online business. People need to be informed through online mechanisms, and I am available for work. And I'm like, okay, that's how I have to train my mind to show up, because otherwise it's, oh, I'm talking too much. I'm like, this is what I'm here for. Like, I signed up to be a business owner. I sell things so that I can help people. And I think changing that question was like, oh yeah, that's what I do. Like, I'm here to serve and to be compensated for what it is I serve people with.
I love it. I just was nodding my head the whole time in case you're listening. So that question, it's a really powerful and simple question. And even if they don't answer right away, like exactly what you just said, it lets them know that you have something to offer. Because I think another mistake that we have with marketing is we don't come out and say, hey, I'm selling stuff. And I can understand, be like, I don't want to be salesy and I don't want to be icky. I totally get that. You hear the real marketers and you're like, I don't want to do that. But even a broken clock is right twice a day, okay? So the good thing that they're doing is they're letting you know, this is what it is. Are you interested or not? And so the reason I'm repelled is because, no, I am not interested. But do you see how they gave me an opportunity to make a decision very quickly? That is something good we can learn from them. And I think that's something we don't usually do. We say, hey, I'm just going to share these free tips and free content. What are you going to attract? You're going to attract people who are only ready for the free tips and the free content. And there's nothing wrong with people checking out your stuff first, but it's like a bait and switch. If you say, here's free stuff, by the way, now all of a sudden I have something like, whoa, I was getting only free stuff from you and now you're selling something. You see what I mean? So it's actually, in my opinion, more ethical to come out and say, hey, I'm selling stuff, because it's very clear this is a working relationship. We might also be friends too. Like, that can come before or after that, and that's fine. But people need to know what it is that they can expect from you. And when you're letting them know, hey, I'm making you paid offers, then they can just ignore, delete the email or the post, or scroll through, whatever. They can continue with their day. That's fine. But if you didn't even give them the chance to say yes, then of course, like, how are you going to make money? So with a marketplace, like if you're on TPT or Etsy or Amazon, you're doing this with your copy, right? You're doing this with giving people the chance to buy it. So don't slack on that. If you're like, I finished the product, I just want to throw it up. Don't do that. That's like the most important part, is that listing, putting the copy on there. It's the same thing with sales pages. And I get it. You're like, I already did so much work and now I have to go do this thing too. Oh, wait, I'm not done. I have to go write an email sales sequence. Oh my gosh. I get that. I really do. But it's doing yourself and the product and the person a disservice if they don't know how they can work with you. So I just want to make sure that you all hear that message today, that if your product is good, and if you don't feel good about your product, then maybe go look at the product, right? And say, how can I make this better? How can I make this offer better? But if you're confident about it, you're like, yes, this is good. Yes, this helps people. Then why aren't you talking about it more? So give every person every opportunity. Also, because you can't assume they're going to see everything. The membership question is really important because you don't know what other posts in there they're going to see. That's why we get their email. And that's why we ask if they want to work with us. If they heard about us on a summit or on a podcast or something, they're a little warmer than randomly finding the group. So if they heard about us, they might go, oh my gosh, I do want to work with that girl. Do you want that freebie? So we need to meet the person where they're at along the buyer journey. Make sure that you're giving people opportunities to indicate where they are on that journey, right? And if you don't want for people to do a written question, by the way, for membership questions, what we're talking about is when you have a Facebook group, you have 3 questions you can ask someone. And it's your settings on the left-hand side on that bar that you get to choose 3 questions. You can either do written answers, multiple choice, or like I think it's checkbox. Anyway, so you can have them choose. If you're scared that, oh, they're not going to type anything in, then you can just have a checkbox. Would you like to hear more about X course, X service, whatever? Yes or no. Okay. And even if they don't get it right now, that's still planting the seed of, oh, that's interesting. What's that? And then guess what else you're going to do? You're going to have a welcome post where you're going to talk about the course again. Hi, I'm Raquel. By the way, I do this course. It's not open right now, but I launch it every so often. If you'd like more information, comment below, or here's the waitlist link. Get the waitlist link in the comments. Now I've heard it twice. And because I don't want to leave things up to chance, when people join my group, I have my VA tag the new person on that video, right? There's a whole system and a sequence here, and you can follow up with people. Here's the deal. If someone's really not interested, or they don't have the mental capacity at the moment to even respond to notifications and stuff, that's fine. They're not going to respond. And honestly, they're probably not the best person I want buying my stuff anyway, because they're going to be more likely to request a refund and they don't have the time or energy to take action. They haven't made it a priority yet. So I want you to have that reframe too, that not everybody's going to be ready to buy, and that's all right. So yeah, I love
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Because what you made me realize too is, oh, that's right. That's 2 different skills, right? To create a thing and to have fun creating it, and then to say, okay, I've completed that part of my job as a creative, and now my job is to sell and market it. And that requires just as much effort as the other thing. And it took me a really long time to get behind that they're like 2 different buckets, and that you can't just say, oh, you're a business owner because you created a thing. No, like that makes you an artist. It doesn't make you someone. It doesn't make you someone in business who gathers money for said creation. Because even those who are artists and sell their things, that's a business transaction. And I love the way that you put that, because it's like, oh, how do we use our brains that really a lot of clarity to distinguish between today is a day, right? Because us teachers know how to divide our days. We're very good at what tasks we know we're good at, right? And so, oh, I know if this is a grading day, this is all we're finna do today. This is all my brain can handle today. So how do you separate that for yourself? And also know that like creativity can come up in the marketing too. You can have fun, right, in that component if you separate it from, I had to create the product first or service first. But that there are actually 2 different kinds of duties that you get to wear as a hat. And I think that's the way I loved how you explained it, because it separated it for me in my mind. Oh, I should make that reframe of like, I did a thing, but now like, how do I do this thing as a CEO then?
I love that. Yeah. And if you want to look at even big companies, like it makes sense that burnout is something that happens. Burnout is probably also cultural too, Western cultures. That's a whole other discussion, but also within the online business owner world, because when you start a company, you really have 6 different jobs. Look at a big company. They have a C-suite, okay? They have a chief marketing officer. They have a chief executive officer. They have a CFO, chief financial officer. They have a chief operations officer. Sometimes they have a chief technical officer. So you have 5 to 6 people who get in a room, make these huge strategic decisions for a whole quarter, year, maybe even a 5-year plan. And it's little old you doing all this stuff unless you have a team. And you're like, why am I burning a candle at both ends? This is why, because you have 5 or 6 different jobs. And I would stand to bet you probably have skills way stronger in one than the other 5. That's just natural, right? Like you could probably guess, I'm the chief marketing officer. Naturally, I love creating content. I was joking with someone the other day. I'm like, can I just be a podcaster? I'm like, this is like the best part. But yeah, but you're going to be stronger in one. Okay. And maybe you can eventually build your team to the point where you only do that. If once you're making loads of money, you can hire someone on to be your copywriter. They do all your sales pages for you. And maybe that's a goal. You hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I never want to write a sales page again. Then girl, start doing it, or whoever, start doing it. Start working towards that goal. Same thing with the tech. If you're like, I cannot stand the tech. Okay. That's fine. Then work towards that, work towards being able to outsource that out. And you're probably not going to go hire a 6-figure executive, right? From day one, at least. You're probably gonna have to start with a VA if you haven't outsourced one task, maybe go on Fiverr. But I want you to know that the reason that you're probably stressed out about marketing or sales is because you're assuming that you have to be like level 10 on day one. You really don't. Just one task at a time. And I love how Raquel, you said breaking it up. I don't write offers on the same days I do the sales pages, and the sales page actual tech, I do that on a different day than I do the copy. because for that exact reason, like it makes me mentally tired, and I don't want to be giving my 2% to the copy. Like, to me, that is the most important thing, because if I have an amazing offer and nobody sees it, actually, let's not even say see it, because we're not even talking about traffic yet. If nobody wants to buy after seeing the page, then what am I doing? Even a nonprofit is still trying to make a profit. So why would you not sell your stuff? It makes no sense to me. We would just not give that best effort to that. Yeah, go ahead.
And you have to get started. I think that's the part that excites me the most, maybe because I'm an English teacher, is that you actually won't know what it is you're selling till you just start writing about it. Just like how do I explain this to other people? How do I develop the benefit of this? What are the features that matter? Like, when you start giving yourself just the exercise of doing that in short, sort of written exercises, that's when you can give yourself the best chance to be like, oh, this is what I'm trying to say. As someone who teaches writing, like, you have to do enough of the writing in order to know what it is you're communicating. And when you don't do it, then you don't have the language.
Totally. And I think it's also a different kind of writing than we're often used to as educators, right? Like, we have the technical or academic writing, and copywriting is very different. So it's usually like one line at a time, which we're like, what? A paragraph isn't one line. We have to rewire our brains for that. And I love what you just said about that tip. You could actually write, this will be a fun project, I think, for most people listening. Try writing your sales page or your product description first, and then create the product. I think that would be like, that's going to like totally break their brains. Like, what? But I think that would be really cool to try. And I think I'm going to try that too, just like for a fun challenge. Because see, I'm making it fun for myself. Like, I have to make these things fun for myself. You have to do that too, whatever it is, because I'll tell you, I do not really like sitting down and doing administrative stuff. If I could, that's my eventual goal, is like, if I could have my operations, I forgot, chief operations officer. That's what I know I need. I forgot about it because I don't want to do it so much. I'm like, so I need someone to come in and do all the admin for me. I can't do it. Eventually respond to emails for me, not because that's not important, but because it's my time. My strengths could be better served somewhere else. So that's another tip within itself. Oh my gosh, I have so many more notes, but I also don't want to keep her here forever. But a couple other notes based on what you said. I want to make sure that they hear this. Behaviors versus results in the promise. This is something that you'll probably always fine tune, but like, you can't guarantee that you can teach someone to make $1,000, right? Let's just use that, even though that's a fun name and that definitely draws people in. And I know that's a B2B thing, so I'll give a B2C example in a minute. You can't control what other people do. You can't control if people buy. You can't control maybe even how many see it. There are some things you can do, right? But you can't control those things. But what can you promise someone to do? For a teacher, if you're making a digital product, you might say, done for you slides that you can just click and go. Everything is standards aligned. Everything is and in that promise, that standard, you're saying, this is what has done for you. You have the lesson, all the materials prepared. Okay. You might even have a video tutorial or something about the content so that they're a little more informed that way. You can promise that. What you can't promise is that all of their kids are going to get 100% on their next standardized test, right? You can't promise that, because that's just not something anybody can promise. Thinking about what are the behaviors, and by the way, that's a good copywriting thing, right? Imagine waking up tomorrow and getting an extra hour of sleep because you don't have to lesson plan for your social studies class. Boom, right? Teacher's like, oh yeah, I'm sold. I need an extra hour of sleep. So you can promise them that because it's already, there's no prep, right? You've done the prep for them. What you can't promise is the result the students will get. Now, you can paint the picture of, just imagine, now that you're well rested and you have this, what does that time give you to do? What could you do with that extra time? Maybe you can take kids 30 minutes back and do some small group work with the students who need extra support. So you want to be realistic with what they can get. And I think that even though the big results sell, I intentionally, like, I'm collecting testimonials right now, and I'm intentionally seeking out people who have a wide range, right? Because I have one person who's had this amazing success, and I'm like, she's not really the best indicative, because I'm like, it's hard to say, but I can't assume.
No, I love that you said that. I want to slow down and tell people that just like you're a teacher in the classroom and you can see the range of students, and with those students, even your like best student, there's a reason they're quote unquote the best. So let's get real about it. In the online world, like, people are the best or the quickest to get results because of certain things. Is it that their following is longer? They've been in this longer. They've gathered enough momentum versus someone who's newer and they're building a different set of skills. So I really love that you're like, I want to pick a range of people at different places so people can get a sense of where can they see themselves. Because it's the beauty of being in business. You're going to attract people just like you do in the classroom. There's a range of folks who have the ability to do things, but everybody moves at their own pace based actually on certain factors. And you can get real about what those are. So I love that you said that.
Thank you. So for that too, because you're going to have, depending on who your products or your services are for, right? If they're for teachers specifically, not every teacher, a first-year teacher has very different needs than someone who's been in the game for 10 years. So be thinking about where are they at? Because the same person, like that your customer, there's really a range, right? They're on a journey. That's why I like the grow your group journey. I called it that specifically. And I'm thinking, okay, what are the things that I think are too easy that are not super easy for everyone? You know what I mean? I really do try to think that. I'm really trying to go through and constantly think, oh, I taught this skill, but this is actually this is a micro skill they need first. So those little things make a huge difference. And just think about the person who's maybe they're aware of where they are and they're so embarrassed to say they need help with the micro skill and no one else is offering that because they're like, they need B, but everybody else is selling T and they're like, I can't get T. I'm not even at C yet. So like thinking like that, what are the different steps in the journey you can help people through and how can you convey that in your content? Can you give people opportunities for reflection in the actual products and emails themselves? Like you can even have a call to action. Hey, I would love to hear what you reflected on. Could you hit reply and let me know? So that's also going to help your email deliverability. If you're on Instagram, you can even set up your chat funnels. I've been obsessed with chat funnels recently, by the way. You can even set one up to where it like follows up and says, hey, did you go through your thing? Did you need any help? Something as simple as that is what was the hardest part? What was the best part? That's good feedback for you. That's good reflection for them. It's a good reminder. Oh crap, I didn't even go do that yet. We all need those things. So I just
also like model it for them. Like we all know this as teachers, like model what good reflection looks based on your experience. If you went through the product and you used it, like what would be your reflection of, oh, this worked and I got to do this with students. So next time I'm going to do this, right? Modeling that for them will then help them to be like, oh, I should get to the product. Like I should consider what that reflection might be.
Totally. Yeah. And I've even been thinking about like, how can I do more like in my free emails, because there was a point where I was like in 6 bundles back to back and I'm like, oh my gosh, my poor list. Not really poor list because they're getting lots of good stuff, but I'm like, they're getting so many sales emails. I'm like, I need to get more like some other stuff in there, nurturing stuff. And I was like, how can I make these emails really good? Like, how can I make them so good that like it's content within itself? So that's also another tip for you is your content standing on its own? It's really good, really good. There are emails I read and I'm just like, wow, this was so valuable. And I reply back for no other reason, just be like, hey, I really love this email. Thank you. Because I want to help their deliverability, but also let them know, hey, I can tell your heart went into writing this and I'm so grateful. Thank you. So how can you make your free content like that? I will tell you just like a tip. I made a post the other day and it was like there was an email that was like very long value. And it was from the heart because I was like frustrated about something. On the back of that, I was like, okay, if I'm frustrated about this, other people must be. So I made a sales raise your hand if you're interested post. Off the back of that, I had 2 people message me and one of them booked a session right away. Okay. Now I'm not doing that to brag or to put that person on the spot. I'm saying that 1, you have to have content that's really good to even educate people on what you do and who you are and all that. But also you need to give them an opportunity to act. So you talk about responding. When you don't use sales copy, when you don't give people the chance to opt in for your freebies, to buy your stuff, you are literally holding back the opportunity for them to implement whatever it is you're teaching. So think of it like that too. Like that first step is they need to be able to respond. It's like not giving the homework, but then saying, it'd be really great if you had a chance to practice this, but then you're holding the practice work in your hand and you're not handing it over. You know what I'm saying? So you need to give them a chance to actually do it.
To me, it felt like the lecturing that happens sometimes. It's like lecturing for too long without allowing people to engage with you as you're like moving through that or allowing them to do something.
Yes. And there's so much. We covered a lot today, but really, I would say the theme is, are you helping people take action on what your offers are? Okay. So Raquel, I would love to hear from you. First, any last thoughts that you have? Because I know we covered so much and I feel like I need to have you back in the future. But what can they do today? What's one thing they can come away with and do today? And which I guess reflecting on this episode would also be good. Listening and really thinking, what can hearing okay, those quick wins, which one can I do? So what are some quick wins that you think they can do? And then where can they go if they want to learn more from you? What's your homework? Where can they go get your homework?
I love that so much. It's funny. I don't know. I intuitively go with whatever comes to me, but I feel like telling people that copy can sometimes sound overwhelming and writing emails can, but really people just want to get to know you what you have to share. And sometimes you have to be willing to be vulnerable. I think that was a powerful part of your post. You're like, I'm going to tell someone about how upset I am. But I'm not just going to say it in 2 sentences. I'm going to make it as part of probably, I'm sure what your post was about was informing people of something that you do that frustrates you, that people then see you move through, that you're not just sitting in frustration, that you're probably considering other things. And I think that's one thing I would tell people is, what are some of your stories? Because I've been writing forever and I'm taking a copywriting course. And I love the idea of like, how do we sit with our emails to consider what is the story that communicates the power of this product that has to do with me? Because you created it for a reason, right? The way you imagine it out in the world may be a certain way. Maybe you can communicate that, because I think that's what people buy these days. It's like you, because there's a bunch of options. There's a lot of templates out there and people are on your list and they want to learn from you because they decided to sign up to be with you. And so how can you keep them connected to who you are and what your story is through the selling of your products, right? I don't know. I feel like that came to me. I don't know if that's a tangible thing, but that's something that I often do. I'm like, what's the story that connect the product to real life? Because I think sometimes we can get stuck in, oh, the product does this and this. I was like, yeah, but what does it do for your life? Is it that in the midst of your teaching journey, X, Y, and Z happened, and now you're imagining this would have been something supportive? Why would it have been supportive? Sharing that story and bringing people on a journey with you, I think is what really helps people make that buying decision, because it helps them envision themselves, right, in those shoes.
I know for the reason the chatbot thing, in case you're not on my email list and you're like, what is she talking about? So one of the reasons I started getting into chatbots is because, well, a couple things. One, I got this really great opportunity and I am so embarrassed to say I did not respond to it in time because it was in my email and I just missed it. I'm sure it's happened to other people. So I'm sure I'm not the only person, but I was like really upset, like to the point of tears. Damn, that would have been so good. And I freaking missed it because I was too busy and I have so many emails and I actually have a VA. Like it got me frustrated to the point where I gave my email to my VA and said, please go through this and help me delete things I don't need. I'm like, because I'm wasting too much time in here, but apparently I'm still missing things. I don't want to do that anymore. And also I don't want to let people down. That's something I really don't like. And so I'm trying to think, how can I offload admin tasks so I can focus on making good content, and also don't want to miss deadlines. So that too. And then also with the chatbot thing, same thing in the DM. Wouldn't it be awful if, because I know some of you guys don't like social media. Some of you don't like social media. And that's part of the reason you're listening. You're like, how can I use this and not be on it anymore? But using and on social media are different. We'll talk about that another time. However, chatbots really help with that because you don't have to respond to the comment yourself. You do not have to be online. You do not have to be on your DMs. If you if you do a little bit of work in the beginning, you can do so much. And doing this stuff for my clients has been really cool. Playing with it myself has been really great. And so I think if it's been that helpful to me, like just having less stress of not having to be on there all the time is great, because then I can be on there to create, to connect when I want to, because if they want the freebie, they're going to say the secret word, they're going to get the thing, right? If they're just saying, hey, Brittany, then I can just respond whenever. It's not an urgent thing. So that need that I saw was like, if I'm struggling with this, there have to be other people too who struggle with deadlines and admin stuff. So what is that thing for you? And if we're talking about tangible, I would say if the writing part stresses you out about a story, then record it. I love going into Google Docs and using the voice typing tool and then just speaking into it like I'm telling a story to somebody. One, that will make your copy sound more like you, because any vocal crutches like, oh my gosh, those things sound silly. And in academic writing, we're told, cut all of it out. But in copywriting, you need to add it all back in. Okay. So what are those different things that sound like you? What are your different, I don't know, even like dialect, slang that you have, like that's going to come through in your copy. It's going to sound more like you. So add all that in and yeah, just see how it goes. Send one of those as your email. In fact, you don't even have to be selling anything. You can just send the email at first, send an email at point, a post. And I know that depending on where you are in your business, send one of those and just let them get to know you. Okay. Not every single email or post has to be you selling something, and it shouldn't be really. Although I do like to give them an opportunity to work with me. So maybe you share a freebie or a resource. Maybe it was a podcast episode you did and you're like, this episode was really good. I talked about XYZ. And so you're not selling anything. You're like, this isn't that. I'm really proud of this work that I created for you. It's totally free to listen. Here you go. Type this word for it. So you can create funnels for stuff like that. Anyway, I was a big fan of ManyChat. And I also just want to say, I love what you said about coaching before the call. We talked about how coaching is holding up a mirror, and it totally is. And I think that you're really going to help so many educators and teachers not only hold up a mirror to themselves, but then hold up that mirror to themselves and to their students. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing, because you're helping people set those boundaries so that they can help people get results without taking on the burden and guilt which is so common for us women. So thank you so much. Where can people go to connect with you, learn more from you, get your homework, all that jazz?
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say it was wonderful to have this conversation with you. And I am on Instagram. I'm all up in there. I don't have much support for Instagram, so if you send me a DM, you're going to hear from me. And username is Truly Yours Salud. So Truly Yours, SALUD. And then I also have a Facebook group for people who are interested in creating courses, programs, or memberships. And in there, I host regular trainings, gatherings, and I'm in there. So I'd love to have you join me in my world. When you join the Facebook group, you do get a freebie. The one that I'm giving away now has to do with, which might be supportive for all of you, messaging with heart. It's this really fun and different way of considering how to adequately communicate the actual course, program, or membership that you're in the midst of selling. And so I'm assuming, though, as I go back through the whole set of prompts, that it could be good even for a physical product, now that I think of it. Because when you sell it, you still have to sell with all these different components in it as well. So if you want to check that out and come join me, please do. I'm over on Facebook. I think the group is called Truly Yours Collective.
I love it. So you're going to be getting some stuff coming your way. This, by the way, this is also super meta and also a total shameless pitch for myself. So she's in my Grow Your Group Journey membership. And this is exactly what I want people to do, right? So if you're listening, even if you're not in there, so you have a Facebook group, you have an awesome freebie, okay? You're giving people a chance to come and join it and hear more from you. So now they're on your email list and they're in your group and on Instagram, wherever else. And it's good to have those multiple touch points. So I just want to say, one, I'm so proud of you. It's awesome seeing you grow. And two, you're just awesome. I hear all the stuff you say and I'm like I have homework. I'm going to go back and make sure, am I adding chances for people to reflect on what they learned? Are my sales pages having email reminders? Am I teaching them how? So these are really good reminders for me too. So thank you personally. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to see how the Grow Your Group journey continues. And you should all join us because it's super low ticket and Brittany's in there, answers all your questions, all the fun stuff, and gives us challenges.
Thanks so much, Raquel.
All right.